need this thing?
Nope.
All right, we're back. Let me get Adam in here. Hang on one second, you guys. All right. All right, we're back. So you're just joining us. Adam from Horror Show Pictures with us. Adam is the director and general overall head honcho at Horror Show Pictures, which I've been fortunate enough to work with on most of my music videos. So, yeah, we were just talking about the church that we filmed in Vote of Light at in Grant. You know what I found interesting about this guy? When I met him, I knew that he was, because you had told me that he was his father had worked for the Chrysler Corporation. But what's interesting about him is he's a sculptor too.
Right.
And not only is he a sculptor, but he's a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, one of the best in the field on the West Coast, apparently.
Exactly. He's one of the most noted plastic surgeons in the entire field, as you said, on the West Coast. But the fact that he's a sculptor, think about that, man. You know, I went to his website at one point, and he was talking about plastic surgery, how that is the ultimate sculpting. He goes, it's the ultimate form of sculpting. So, I mean, I think about that, man. If who else would you want practicing plastic surgery on you than a dude who like sculpts on marble? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and does incredibly well at it. You know, like some of the sculptures that he had. So another little tidbit about Grant is that he also runs a haunted house out of that church that we filmed in. So, you know, there's the place where we shot upstairs, and then right when you go behind that, that's where the haunted house starts. And then he has all of these, you know, sculptures and things that he had made or bought, including like, you know, knight's armor and all sorts of cool stuff that he had put in his haunted house. And I think the thing that blew me away, like I know you were impressed by it, was his Dr. Frankenstein laboratory. Absolutely insane.
If you want to go into my Instagram and scroll down from a few weeks ago, I actually posted a photo of me standing in that lab. It's all real surgical equipment because he's a surgeon. Yeah. So it's legit, man. And a lot of it is very antique. He's an antique collector as well. You know, Adam mentioned there were suits of armor in the basement, and I'm not talking about suits of armor from like Wayfair. I'm talking about these are actual suits of armor from the 15th, 14th century.
Oh yeah,
and from France and England. And
yeah, he had a few suits. I think 2 of them were like actual suits of armor from that era. The others were like reproductions, but they were all immaculate. Like
they absolutely were. And you know, I just want to point out these sculptures that we're talking about. I noticed, and if anyone wants to go back and watch the In Making of Vote of Light video on YouTube, you can see in some of the scenes when it's behind the scenes of Chris coming down the aisle in the church. You can see while we're all sitting there watching it happen, you can see these sculptures just variously set throughout, like right off camera range. I mean, it was full of sculptures everywhere, man.
Right.
Good, beautiful sculptures.
Really good. Like I think we had to cover quite a few of them. Like there was an Abraham Lincoln statue bust that he had sculpted that was huge, immaculate. Huge. And we ended up covering it, obviously because it doesn't a church aesthetic. But you know, there's a few if you look that you can catch if you watch that scene.
Exactly, man.
Stitch.
You know, and I saw that. You know, it was great, man. He was so like accommodating as well, man. You know, I mean, he just looked like what you'd expect. He was like a little guy with glasses, bow tie, little old man. He was just hanging out. He let us use fog in there. It was amazing.
He was a yeah. And you know, when I met him, so I just walked in. His car was there.
Yeah, you froze up, but I can hear you.
Can you guys still hear me? Artist's okay to just go ahead and shoot in there. He was like, you're an artist trying to do some artistic stuff, go ahead. You can, you know.
Yeah, man.
So
that was,
it was really cool.
Yeah, we were supposed to do performance footage as well for that. People have asked, like, why is there no band footage? But it got so late, man. But we should point out, I think a really cool story that people may be interested in hearing is that prior to us deciding that we just needed to call it a night, because the crew was tired, the cast was tired, it was getting late, and we had Mr. Babadook to shoot the next day, right? Is that how it was? Like, we had another video the next day to work on. Was that how it was?
Yeah, so what happened was we shot Babadook first. And
right.
I'm going to walk inside. I'm crapping out here. But anyway, so we shot Mr. Babadook first. It was an entire
That's right.
day shoot. That took 12 hours on set. And so the next day we were scheduled to go. We were there for another, 10 hours shooting inside.
Right. We were there longer than anticipated.
Would have maybe happened even in the area where he, sculptures and artifacts and the armor and stuff. So that ran long, so we had to go and wait until the next day to shoot at my alternative location, which is, why it's a good idea to always have alternatives. Like, anything can happen.
Yeah.
When we were shooting in the forest and decided to not the performance stuff, which there's another story, another alternative, which would have been the Ted Bundy kill site, right?
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm not trying to cut you off. There's like a little bit of a lag on the connection. I'm gonna cut off and I'm gonna invite you back in, okay? Just so we can like reset the connection. So
I got a lag.
I'll be right back. Okay. All right. So we're removing Adam and we're gonna ask Adam back. Sorry about this. Let's try it again. All right. So yeah, what Adam was saying, I don't know how much you call it, but one of the locations that we were actually going to be filming at prior to just striking the entire thing was where Ted Bundy's cabin was. He had a cabin at the foot of these mountains, right at this park, where it was pretty near to where we actually ended up shooting. Is that right?
Right. It was, that's right. It's at the mouth of, it's called Immigration Canyon.
Yeah.
And so he had a kill site, like a little cabin that used to be there, which they have since torn down. But, it's still like we're, paranormal hang out and, scare each other and stuff like that. So we were going to shoot there. Mainly because out of the way that if we had to amplify and be loud, no one was going to, stop us. Like, cops wouldn't have come up there. So it was like, okay, that's our alternative to shooting our performance shots, which were supposed to church initially, but we ran long.
Yeah. But it ended up working out good.
Being the
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, man. There's like a little bit of robo lag.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all good, man. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was, it ended up being good, man. I mean, everything worked out great. That ravine that we ended up shooting in, so all the scenes where, Chris is out in the woods and Tosh is there and whatnot. That was like what people don't, like, I always wanted to explain is we were in a ravine. So there were houses around. So we were trying to be as quiet as possible. But the thing is, we had a generator. And there's one scene, if you look in there, you can see JB from Mr. Monster, Darrow Chemical Company. He was there with us at that time. He, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Noah. Noah's in there. If you can see Shadow Windhawk back in the back in one of the scenes. He's hanging out. But
he's all the pews, you can see him.
Yeah, he's lost in the shadows, like as he should be.
Yeah.
But we're carrying this generator. We have this huge generator, and we're trying to crank this thing on, man. And at one point, these people, because it was pretty late. It was like 11 p.m. It was getting late. These people out on their balcony go, "Hey, what are you doing down there? And Alex, one of our art guys, he was like, shooting a music video. And they go, okay. And that was it. I thought it was it, man. But we had to get down in that ravine, man. Like, it was down there. We were really like sliding downhill to get to that.
Yeah, it was sorry, it keeps disconnecting. I didn't hear the last part you said, but if you already said this, it was like back at them that we're shooting a music video into the ravine, you know, was, you know, in itself kind of a challenge with all of our gear and equipment and all of that. It was a lot of fun.
I just remember trying to get that 120-pound generator down the hill. We were just trying to shimmy it down. And remember, it wasn't working. It wasn't working. We were just gonna leave it in the woods.
Yeah.
But then, like I had like guilt. I was like, I can't leave this giant hunk of crap in the woods, man. But I was just like, this thing lives in the woods now. This generator lives here. If people want to come here and take this generator away one day, like, this is a generator in a vote of light, you can have it. But we ended up taking it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think we ended up getting it going. Yeah. So we got it going to the point where it's just like, you know what, we're not going to use this. Like, let's just keep going. It's taking too much time. Ended up just scrapping it. Vape. Like, we needed a little bit of.
That's so right, man.
Oh.
Hey,
vape in front.
I'm so sorry to do this to you, man, but I'm gonna
lens to give it that.
I'm gonna disconnect you for 1 second. Let's try it again, man. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut you off, but like, I think we're overlapping. So give me 1 second.
Yeah. No.
Seek the router. All right, I'll be right back. So while I give him a chance to get recalibrated, there was no fog. If you look, so there was fog in the church. So the church sequences, we had our fog machine because we could actually plug that up into the church power. But when we were out in the woods, we needed fog. There was no generator at that point. It would not work. So straight up, one of the dudes was just like, we were blowing like strawberry tutti frutti vape like smoke in front of the camera. So that's what's happening out there in the woods. Yeah, it's a very tutti frutti ghost story. You gotta do what you gotta do. All right, let's see if we got Adam back here. Third time's a charm, man.
Hey, does it work?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I should stay inside or what? But yeah. So, you know, that wasn't the only shoot where we had to trek in all the gear into a ravine. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so in the Uninvited, we had to trek in the gear even a little bit further. I'm going to set this down. Where, you know, it was like a 1/4 mile hike. It was down into where our shooting location was, and we had to go down like 2 ravines, right? And so that log that we strung you up on, me and Alex Bowie, I don't know if he's still on here, but he can vouch for this. We trekked that down on our shoulders, and that thing probably, I might be exaggerating, weighed like 5 tons. But
I believe it, man. I was chained to it. I was like, this thing's heavy.
Yeah. And so we trekked it down there, and we ended up leaving it there because we're like, we're not gonna trek this back up. We're gonna leave it. We left the entire set still set up.
It's so funny about that is the fact that, like, if someone goes down there right now because it's a hiking trail, they're going to see this like this witch's burn stake like in the middle of the
yeah, which they did. So I get a phone call like a few weeks later from the parts department, be like, "Did you leave a set down in this ravine?" And I'm like,
You're like, Satan.
Yeah, I was gonna go back and shoot some more later. And they're like, well, we found some artifacts that look like people were doing rituals down here. Like they had found burnt packages, burnt photos, and like burnt little voodoo dolls and shit that someone made and like burned
Us.
fire. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Dude, and everyone keep in mind, this is Salt Lake City, and I'm not dumping on Salt Lake City, but there is a religious contingency that is involved in much of the politics and anything else in Salt Lake City. So like the fact that like you're getting this call from someone like, we see evidence of rituals, it's like,
yeah,
so,
they thought that we were responsible for that. It was really just stumbling on it. And
I just want to make it clear to everyone, watching, that when we say ravine, like it was a ravine. Now it was somewhat of it had elements of hiking accessibility, but it was like level 5 hiking. It wasn't like, I'm going to walk my dog down this hill and I'll be okay. Like it was deep, man. And it was treacherous. And the way we had to park was, it was, how far would you say it was from when we parked down to we had 2 shooting locations. We had the one location that was a little bit higher when I was at the beginning chained, getting pulled around. That was at like level 1 of the ravine. Then we went even further down. That was at least over a mile to the car?
it could have been like a quarter mile to a half a mile.
Half a mile? Okay.
But like when you're trekking gear down.
And we had to go back and forth is the thing. It wasn't a situation of like, once we got there, we were there. Like when I had to do makeup, for example, I had to go all the way back up and all the way back down. And let's talk about the weather that night, man.
It was really strange, man. So like there's a tradition that we didn't know about where every time me and Goolsby shoot outdoors, there's a supermoon.
Yeah, man. Straight up.
Yeah, that's how it went with Invotive Light, and that's how it went with the Uninvited. Like both nights were a supermoon. And so on the
and it wasn't planned for.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. It just happened. And so on the set of Uninvited, like when we went to the tier 1, the lowest level ravine, it was like 60 degrees down there. It was pretty warm. Like we shot this December 1st and it was warm and there was a warm air coming up. And then as you went up tier 2 of the ravine where we had base camp, it was like 30 degrees, like freezing. It was easy.
I remember that night because we had a tent set up at base camp. We had like a tent. Mm-hmm. And in that tent, we were all kind of huddled. And now keep in mind, we're all in like period gear, right? We can't like have parkas on and leather jackets. Like what you see, I feel for people in that day and age, man, because like there's no doubt in my mind why the median age was like 30s, because like you couldn't go outside without, if that's what you had to wear, like you were doomed.
Flu, man.
It was so fucking cold, man. It was so cold. And we had this tent. And I just want to point out that we started right before the sun went down. So once sunset happened, once nightfall occurred, it got colder. And that's when the wind picked up. The wind, it got so cold there that it blew the tent over. The wind got so crazy. And there was like at any point of us, like 9 or 10 people inside this tent, all around the stove, like a FEMA camp, eating soup, like trying to stay hot. And the tent blew over, and it got so cold that some people left. Like a lot of people, we had more villagers at this point in time for the shoot that we were doing later down by, the sacrificial post.
Right.
But it got so cold that we lost a lot of people. A lot of people are like, yo, man, no offense. Yeah. It's too cold. It's late. I got to go home. So our village went from a village down to like a backyard party.
Yeah, like some sort of family gathering, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we had 3 or 4 people leave, but it happened right before we were supposed to shoot. And so
their parts.
Right. And so they had shown up with other villagers who then had to take them home, and like, where the fuck are all my extras, right?
Where's our village?
Yeah, where'd they go? And so we're about to shoot, and maybe we have like 4 people, and then the rest of them showed up. We're like, yeah, we had to take these people home.
Yeah.
So they showed up like right in time.
But
you fill it in.
you brought up a good point, man. When you talked about the weather change, it got so bad. And like when I say so bad, I don't mean, oh, it's cold. Like, you know, we were enduring it. But keep in mind, like, we had these costumes were made, and they were made well. But you know, keep in mind, like the pants are felt. It's a vest. I have pantyhose on, and you know, on my legs, and which was great actually. Like in terms of like that was the warmest part of my body. And then we had like the little buckles on our shoes and things like that. And for the most part, all the villagers had the same. Once we got down deeper into that ravine, it got so much colder. So if it was 30, I'd say it was below that, man. I mean, with the wind chill, we were probably looking at maybe 15 degrees. By the time we got down in that ravine, it was horrible. It was so cold, man. Like I remember you and I being like, dude, like we couldn't move our hands. Like we weren't able to like move cameras and equipment the way that we wanted to because it was just coming down. And then I don't know what happened, but right about the point that I think we were about to throw the towel in, it changed. Yeah. Do you remember that? This warm air
or something, and like that air that started to come into that ravine was warm.
It was amazing.
Like, yeah, before it was like, you know, cold AC blasting into this. And then right after we were about to be like, you know, fuck this, let's figure this out. Yeah. This warm air came in, and the set was perfect.
Keep in mind, our base camp, like when we went down here, so it wasn't like in between scenes we could run into this tent anymore. Like this was now, you know, like, you know, a 5-minute hike up a hill, you know, another like 10-minute hike up a hill. So we had to sit down there. There was nowhere. We were open, exposed in this ravine, and I'll never forget that, man. Like it was. I mean, I really feel, and I'm not trying to be like it's supernatural, but it got warm enough. It turned to 60 degrees, man. It went from 15 degrees to 60 degrees. Like it came to the point that we got hot and we were taking off layers at that point. And if you remember, we wrapped up that night like at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah. So you guys left at like 3. Like that was our last shoot. And then the crew and I were cleaning up and we were there till 5.
But right after that, the storm came right after you guys left. And it was just like a downpour. It was snow, everything.
Right. We had like a blizzard almost. I think it happened like right after we had started loading in the last bits of gear on the drive back to, you know, home base. It started blizzard conditions, you know. It was crazy. So we kind of had the elements in our favor.
We definitely did, man. We definitely did. I remember too, Alex, you know, who was one of the vampires alongside Ian. Ian was the more Nosferatu-esque vampire, and Alex was the kind of bigger dude with the curly hair. I remember his role was to pull out those guts. Remember we had those guts made, and those guts looked amazing. Did Caramel make those?
No, Alex made those, I think.
Right.
Yeah, so he made those, and that was actually his suggestion too. Like I didn't ask him to make that, but I had told him that like these vampires need to be like more of a demonic style, not just like a classic, you know, bite your neck kind of vampire, but I want them to tear people apart. And so he shows up with this igloo cooler full of fucking guts, man. And I'm like, dude, this is gonna be sweet. You know, he showed up that day. And then the heart also happened that morning as well. Keisha, the makeup artist, just had this gelatin heart that she had made. And it's like, oh, well, we could use this. And so that's how that final scene where you pull the heart out of the priest, that happened that morning before we were supposed to shoot.
Yeah, a lot of it was
more props that we had, you know.
That's what's cool about it, man. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier with people about songs and how they get written. You have an idea, you have a framework, and sometimes it's done. Then you go work on it with someone else, and then a new dynamic comes along, and it becomes something different. And you know, I think of some songs now that are songs that people love. They probably wouldn't have been those songs had they stayed the songs that they were. If they weren't, you know, explored, and we just didn't happen to come upon this like, oh, I accidentally played the wrong chord. Oh, we'll keep playing that chord. Now there's a bridge. Same thing with like all these videos that we've done. It's been that way to an element. They've been planned, but there's always been something that's been unexpected that it just worked out for the best.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. You know, we had even with Mr. Babadook, we kind of ran into the problem of initially it was supposed to have, I think, 2 locations. Like we were going to kind of root it more in real life. So we were going to shoot in a house and on set and all of that. But a couple of weeks before the shoot, we had the set designer drop out. And so we're like, okay, we got to kind of streamline this and simplify it a little bit. And so me and you were talking, and it was just like, well, let's just go full German expressionist. Let's just find all the shit that we can and make a good looking set off of what we have available. And so that's how that bedroom set came to be. And then we're also, you know, invoking influence from Georges Méliès, you know,
Absolutely.
French director who I love. All of his, you know, old work, we, you know, incorporated that into our Babadook. And that's how, you know, something that seemed to be a wall, we kind of jumped over it, kind of rewrote the plot behind it, and I think it worked out better for that too.
Yeah, you know, I made mention, I was like, you know, I always felt like with the Babadook, the reason why I liked that movie so much was I felt like that was just a character that could have been like a silent movie character. It felt very Dr. Caligari-esque. And even when you watch the Babadook, there's like, I think there's a scene where she's watching TV and you see the Georges Méliès in the background. And so there are definitely nods to it. It's like a cross between Inspector Burke from London After Midnight, you know, the vampire from London After Midnight, and like Willy Wonka or something. It was just really weird. And I was like, you know, it'd be cool if we just kind of turned him into that and work with what we had. And it worked out great, man. That set is actually still in Salt Lake City. It's at Zombie Cock's rehearsal space. So if anybody...
It's gone now.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. They kept it for as long as they could. And then they ended up having to get a new practice space. And that went out with the trash, unfortunately.
Oh, man, that's a shame. Those walls and everything like that, you know, like...
Right.
Again, talking about a village, it takes a village. Like, there were so many cool little parts to that video that came about again. Like, you know, like we didn't know what we were going to do for fingers. And we literally took, Alex took a coat hanger, and we just undid the coat hanger, cut the wire off at lengths, and then just wrapped up gaffer tape and twisted it on my fingers. And dude, when I took those things off at the end of the day, I mean, it was just like, I was bleeding. I mean, the wires had just gone straight down into my knuckle. I had one that it was like it was in my bone, dude, straight up. I had to like kind of like wiggle it out. It's like, I could hear it squeak.
Oh, man. You know? Dude, yeah, surprised. Like we were there for 12, 13 hours at the studio.
Yeah,
we had you get up most of the time, right? Like I think you were in full makeup for at least 8 hours.
I got into makeup. I got there at 6:30 a.m. I believe it was, or 7 a.m. at Redmond Studios, and then I went straight into makeup and got all that on, and then you know we set up, and I think we did all of the actual like storyboard videos, storyline video, and then I went back and I changed makeup so I could do the performance part of the video. But yeah, I mean that's why I just ended up there's footage of me like on my Instagram and a couple other places where I was just riding a skateboard around, man, just to keep cool, because it was just like I had to keep the makeup from melting off, so I was just longboarding around the entire place all day long.
Is what we used to make you float.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was my longboard. I just tied like some twine to it, and I'm behind that bed and I'm pulling you forward in that scene. And
that was such a great idea, man. Like we were like, let's give the Babadook an impression of floating, and that's why if you see that scene where I open my hands and I'm coming towards the camera, I'm on a skateboard. I'm just standing on it, and they have a rope pulling me towards it.
Couple tries. Like the first one, I yanked it a little bit too hard, and like you came flying at me, so I had to like stop you. And a couple times later, like it was just, you know, more finesse. we'll make this look good, and we got.
It was cool though, man. And like there were little things that we didn't plan on that are so subtle that I love about that video. For example, when Julia goes to look out of the door, right? And she sees, and when she closes it, as she's closing the door, you see the shadow of my hand.
I don't know if people have noticed that. I would be interested to know.
I don't think anyone's ever...
when we saw that, we're like, okay, we're going to make this, you know, prominent, but still kind of hidden. You know, it's like when she shuts that door in that scene, you see the full silhouette of the Babadook fingers, you know. And
Yeah.
and there's also a scene, I don't know if anyone has noticed this, in The Uninvited, where we first see the villager holding the torch and the Bible, and we can kind of see into the creek bed. I had Alex, who played a demonic vampire, walk to give you kind of a hint about what was to come. And if you look really close, you can see it.
You see him creeping by. Dude, that was so cool, man. That was that going back to The Uninvited. That was like, you know, that was the end of the night. Like that was like the icing on the cake. We'd done all the stuff. It was, I mean, it was cool. Like it was all fun, but like that was the reward, man. That was like the high dive. And here we are at the end of the night, and it was like, yes, now vampire carnage, and it was just like everybody, just all the guts were getting ripped out, and people's faces were getting slashed, and it was just like, yes, finally.
Yeah. That was definitely the icing on the cake of that night. You know, that's what everyone was waiting for. And, you know, we shot it like an action scene. So, you know, it was all handheld and lots of like whip pans and, you know, to just make it seem really chaotic. And so there's a lot of whip pans back and forth. And then, you know, that scene, my favorite kill, I guess, is when Ian, the Nosferatu looking vampire, grabs Chris, he's the villager's face, and like flicks it this way, and then you see the cuts as he comes down, and then he attacks him. You know,
he's all like,
there's a lot of speed ramps that I added to that to give the vampires like a really supernatural kind of look. So in post, I made them move a lot faster than they do in real life, so it looks like they have the supernatural kind of movement to them.
Oh yeah, just like when the one that she's just like slashing at the guy's face. It looks so. It looks sped up, but in a way that, it's very nightmarish in terms of its quality.
Yeah. So, you know, it's sped up like when after he slashes him and then he runs towards him. That's the part I want to like emphasize, like the speed. And then, you know, of course, when Alex pulled his guts out. Okay, so Alex was the vampire that, you know, had the longer hair, and he was just pulling those guts out, and he got so into it. I had so many takes of him just ripping guts out. It was hard to like pick the best one because he was so devoted to that.
I know.
Like,
like I remember watching him, and like I got not scared obviously, but I was just like, if I would have walked down in that ravine at that very moment, I would have ran as fast as I could back up the ravine. And I'm not like a running away type of person from shit, but like that dude. Like, if I would have seen any of us down there, I would have been like, what are these weirdos up to? But if I would have stumbled upon that moment in time, like, I would still be talking about it. People are like, don't go in the woods, there's monsters. Like, he so convincing, man. So
and that's why they burn effigies down there, dude. Like, dude, do you remember when it was probably midway through shooting, and we were down in the ravine, and, you know, the houses were up high, so like there was houses still surrounding this ravine. Someone had a spotlight and was trying to like shoot down at us to figure out what we were doing,
what we were sacrificing.
Yeah, like who we were sacrificing, like, you know, what sort of satanic ritual was going on. Is it witches? Like, nobody knew. So they were shooting this light down there, and we're like, that's fucking up our shot. And then so Joe, our DP, you know, we had that huge HMI light that we set up there, and luckily that was like canceling out any sort of light they had, because it's like, pardon me, peasant, but we have movie lights. This is way better than you have.
Oh my god, that was crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, I think about it from the perspective of just anyone wondering on that situation. Like, we were burning torches. I mean, those torches, those were real torches. So, like, if you didn't know, if you were just, like, for whatever reason, if you were just deciding to take your dog out for a walk at 11 p.m. in this ravine that night, like, you were about to stumble upon some shit.
Yeah, so I also found out that park, there's a trail. It's an equestrian park. So people go in and, like, ride their horses and stuff. And so when that lady had called me asking if we were making sacrifices in that ravine, she had gotten a call from someone riding their horse the day
so someone saw it.
So someone saw us and was like, what the hell's going on down there?
We're filming a sacrificial snuff film.
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
man.
And so, you know, I cleared that up. Like, you know, we went through all the precautions, like we got permits and stuff like that. You know, we weren't going to be in any sort of trouble. It was just funny. But
It was great, man.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I was thinking back to Mr. Babadook as well, talking about kind of like some things that, like how we had to innovate on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
There's that scene where when Julie is looking at the book and the walls open up and I'm standing there, I do that whole thing. A lot of people, they're like, oh, that's cool, man. You guys had the wall on rollers, because we were in a studio. Like, no, that's not a roller. That was literally JV Bastard, Noah Bailey.
Yep, Noah.
Shadow Windhawk.
Yeah.
Who else was back there?
Willie
from Zombie Cop.
Alex, I think he was just doing set design on that one. Anyway,
Yeah.
Alex Bowie was back there with him. So we had guys pushing that apart. And so we were rehearsing it, and I think we took, I don't know, like 8 takes on that one.
It took a while.
So I'm going to, like, you know, do a little demonstration. So, like, sometimes you'll get one that goes first and then one that goes like that. So, like, we had to time it just right so it was, like, even.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was so cool, though. You know, and that's the studio. So the studio that we used for Mr. Babadook, in the background, I've had people ask me, too, like, how did you guys get the woods back there? There was a projector mounted on the roof or the ceiling that we shown down. And that's the exact same room that we used for the performance videos for The Uninvited when we went back to do that video. That's why we had that stained glass image in the background, was from that same room, that same projector.
Yeah, so that was something that also kind of worked out a little differently than we had imagined. So we were going to actually shoot that performance stuff outdoors too, and a castle set that my friend that works at Nightmare on 13th was going to lend us, which is a haunted house. So he has like all sorts of just random sets that they have. And we were going to put that dilapidated castle set outside and then shoot the performance stuff in there. But that ultimately didn't work out. So we ended up, you know, just putting this huge, beautiful stained glass image. And, you know, it's just something about the simplicity and, you know, composition of that I just love a lot, you know, and that beam of light down, and, you know, it worked out really well.
I agree, man. And like, if you looked off when you're watching the video, if you're looking at the screen, if you look off to the right, it looks like there's a light shining down, like we're in front of a window. But that was all your guys. That was just you being like, hey, let's place light to look like it's being filtered from a window to give it more of a chapel feel, which was great, man. Yeah.
So that one, our director of photography on The Uninvited was Joe Olivas, and he's amazing. Yeah. So, you know, I told him that's what we wanted, and he was able to achieve it like nothing. And originally we were going to have snow coming down.
Right.
From the hole, because it was supposed to like emulate a hole in the ceiling coming down. And we ended up scrapping that mainly because of, you know, just not having access to a snow machine that could produce that amount of snow to make it look better.
You see somebody like just to blow snow like we did the vape. Just like,
like you know, those instant potato flakes, just hold them in. Yeah.
Cuts.
About that, like that was actually one of Joe's suggestions. It was like, well, how do we use instant potato flakes to do that? And I'm like, well, that's a lot of potatoes. I like the simplicity. Like, let's just keep it simple, and it looked great.
I thought so too, man. And Carolyn Richardson, she's the one that designed that image. Yeah, I loved it, man. And one of my favorite memories of that day was trying to eat pizza. So I couldn't take my hands off, right? Like,
for the Babadook, yeah.
For the Babadook, going back to the Babadook, I had these big finger extensions on, and I could have taken them off, but I was afraid because the wires, I mean, there was no real structure or system. I was just like, well, wire, and I was like, I don't want to mess with them, so I just left them. I could feel they were dug in place. We'll just leave them where they need to be. So we ordered this pizza, and it's huge, man. And like, I go out to get the pizza, and there's a video. I should post it at some point, but there's a video of me going out to get the pizza from the pizza guy, dressed up as the Babadook. And I'm all in character, so I'm walking out like this, walking towards him.
Skulking at him.
Like,
your hands up and your fucking fingers.
and JB from Mr. Monster, Darrow, is like filming this in the parking lot. And the guy's like, hands me the pizza. So what I do is
was when you handed him the money because you paid all in cash, right?
oh, like
You had it like that.
I had like it was like a $20 bill. So I walk up to him and I was just like, and I drop it in his hand, and then I go like this, and then he reaches for the pizza, and I go,
yeah, you
like a bow to him, and I hold my hands out like this, and he puts the pizza in it, and I just go.
Yeah.
And I turned around and I was walking away with the pizza, but I was like not moving. I was just like moving my feet like this. And I was walking.
40 inches of pizza, right? Like
it was a 40-inch pizza.
Standard pizza. It was like a 40 by 40-inch pizza box. So this huge pizza box. It's comically like cartoony when you're just walking.
Like I was already a cartoon, and then you put a 40-inch pizza box in my hand, and like it's great. I gotta put that video up, man. It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't break character the entire time because I had the smile. I was just like, and I was walking up to him, and like that dude was kind of like,
he was, yeah, that was probably the weirdest thing he had seen in a while.
But I was just like,
that was the best, dude. You got to be dainty with it.
Yeah. I was like, and then we got back, and I was like, how the hell am I going to eat this, man? I couldn't pick it up because the fingers had the frame, the wires only went to here, and the fingers are that long. So there's a picture of me, I think, where I have my hands on the table and I'm just frowning, looking at the pizza. I was like that kid in the McDonald's commercial, like back in the 80s, where everyone's like ice skating and he can't skate, so Ronald McDonald comes and picks him up. I was just waiting for my Ronald McDonald to come feed me my pizza.
Someone ended up feeding you, right? Like
JB had to feed me the pizza. I was just like sitting there like mama bird, baby bird, man. It was hilarious.
That one. Like our ETS
Good
was
times, dude.
busy that day, and so we don't have any footage of that. But he showed up the next day, and that's how we got all the invotive light stuff. And then, and for the uninvited, I just have photographs that I took.
Right.
But, we had some good times on that one too.
Oh yeah, man. That was by far so much fun.
Oh yeah.
I just want to let everybody know too that we have another music video coming out that I've worked on. We've just in the process of, well, prior to COVID, there were some other things that got shifted around, rearranged in terms of some projects that needed to come out. Namely, I needed to finish, the Nosferatu score because that kind of shifted once we had a release date for it and a premiere night and all that stuff. But now that that's out of the way, I don't know if have we told everybody what video it is, or is it? I
don't think we've released anything about it.
I never released any. Okay, I'm gonna keep it under wraps for a little bit longer.
Okay.
It is a Hollow Bodies.
Yeah, and we did go to the East Coast for this one, so that we'll have actual East Coast footage. I'm just gonna grab my charger real quick, as opposed to fake Utah East Coast footage.
Yeah, we filmed it in Salem. As a matter of fact, we filmed some of it down on the main area by the ship on the wharf. We did some. Luckily, was it Kelly? Was that his name, Kelly? Because we were doing Damnation's video the same weekend. He's like, "Oh, dude, I work at a power plant right around the corner." Shannon. Yeah. So Shannon was like, "Dude, if you guys don't," because we kept having people walk down this pier because it's an open public space and it's Salem and it's getting to be close to tourist season anyway, so there's people in shots, like everywhere, like ladies in fanny packs and like kids picking their nose. So we were like, this is frustrating. And Shannon, who is friends with the guys in Damnation, who we were also filming a video for that same weekend, was like, you see that point over there? See that power station? That's where I work, so just come with me. It was great, man. We had private entrance to a shoreline and cool
like he found the perfect location. Like it's gorgeous. So we actually were able to get some really beautiful shots that when we release this video, I'm excited for everyone to see that. And there is a little teaser pic that I posted on Instagram when we were shooting at, what wharf was it in Salem? Anyway, we're the lighthouse.
Oh, yeah,
we have a little pic of that with you.
Well, in another area that we shot too was Tarrytown at Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and it really wasn't because it was something that was integral, but like since you guys were here, you and Keisha were here visiting, and You guys had never, like, let's go to Tarrytown. It's so close to where I live. Let's go to Sleepy Hollow. It's just like, well, let's just film while we're there. Let's get some B-roll. And that came out really cool too, because there's a really beautiful time of year in that cemetery as well. And we caught a lot of that in our footage.
Yeah. And, just the footage that we got there, was really beautiful too. And just the aesthetic of that place. So, like, walking by Washington Irving's plot was amazing to me. That was, for me as a writer, that was one of the first pieces of literature that I read horror-wise as a kid, was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And to see that was surreal, to be in that place. And the Hudson River Valley itself is just creepy. Yeah. I love it.
It definitely has its own vibe, man. Definitely. And next time you come down, man, we'll have to go further up, like Croton on Hudson. You get up to like West Point, areas like that. It's still up there. West Point, Military Cat, Ossining, those areas, Cold Spring. Dude, it's crazy because, Tarrytown's just, that area, it was like just stuck in the middle in terms of the mouth of the Hudson. You had the lower party, which was, the Crown, like the British, which were all like kind of set up in New York, like Manhattan, that area. And the Patriots were up at West Point, and everyone was just going through Tarrytown, man. But there's a lot of ghost stories up there just because of that. There's a lot of conflagrations and a lot of Indian wars, a lot of, all kinds of stuff, really, man. It's insane. But what I love about Sleepy Hollow is that they embrace it. They own it. And it's not to the point that it's like shameful or like shameless. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's good, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like a interesting dichotomy between Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, and Salem. So like Salem, they don't really embrace for the most part, the shop owners can't embrace the witch aspect of it. Like they refuse to sell pendulums and stuff like that. Like, they kind of try to keep it more under wraps. But Sleepy Hollow is like, here's our horseman. Check out his great fight. This is the bridge he went over. It's great.
I was just there. I just posted it yesterday on Instagram. Jordan and I were down. We just took a drive. We'll just go down there and just kind of tool around from time to time. And they have a new marker there for the Headless Horseman, because they have one outside of the cemetery where it's talking about this is where the original bridge was situated in Washington Irving's tell. The actual Hessian is buried there. He's buried in the old Dutch church there. I think I showed you that.
Yeah, I think he's grave. I think.
But yeah, he's not marked. He wasn't given like a proper, I guess, Christian burial or whatever, because he was an enemy. But the whole legend is they believe that particular Hessian that is buried there was one that had helped a family of Van Tassel, get their baby out of a fire that was ordered to be set upon their house by one of the commanders of the British Army. And for that act of kindness, they found this headless Hessian in a field, like he was already bones. They found no head; it was just a body. But there was report of actual soldier getting his head blown off, by a cannonball on Halloween night in the Battle of White Plains. So anyway, they found him and they were like, this is probably that guy. Let's just give him. I don't know why they drew the conclusion that it was the one that helped the Van Tassel family, but that's why he's buried there. But it's cool, man. They actually, like that they put the sign up. It's pretty neat. It's a big cemetery.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it's I think my favorite part was probably the old Dutch cemetery. And then the little bit of shooting that we got to do in there. I'm also excited to show people because we got some.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah.
We'll have that coming out soon.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing some post work on it to add some apparitions and cool stuff like that.
Yeah, looking forward to it, dude. There's so much, man. Like, that's the thing is, I went from having I'm sure as you did too, like a release schedule of like things like, okay, this month is going to be this, and this. This month is going to be that, and that. And now it's just kind of like, all right, like there's so much stuff. It's bottlenecked right now. I don't even know where to begin. Like, I'm like, okay, not only have all these things just kind of like converged now needing to happen, but there's other things that have happened in the months in the interim that are on top of that. So there's just, it's like, what can you do? I don't want to release an album when I can't tour. I don't want to, put out a score that I can't premiere. So it's just like a lot of just uncertainty. I mean, the projects are certain, but like the timelines aren't.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, like what we were talking about the other day, it just seems like we kind of hit a wall,
Yeah.
with like the projects we're working on. And, it's all about timing to make sure that, these projects get out and everybody, sees them. And so we've kind of had to put a stop on how many projects do you think we have? Three projects essentially.
Yeah. Between us, yeah, at least 3.
That we kind of had to just, put on pause for now and, hope for better days soon. Yeah, stupid COVID. By the way, I aced my COVID test. I had to go get a test the other day.
Why?
Because I was working with this dude that his wife is a nurse, and they're not giving nurses fucking PPE. So she was in a long-term care facility with a cloth mask on, right? So she tested positive for it. And so I was working with this guy for a couple weeks, and he told me, so I had to go get tested, and I got my results back today. I'm COVID free. Celebrate.
Right on, man. Celebration time, brother. That's awesome, dude.
Gotta celebrate the little things in dark times,
I know, man. I'm so bummed about this year. This year has just been brutal. Like I mentioned it on here before. This Halloween is going to be on a Saturday night on daylight savings time, which means when it's 1 a.m., it goes back to another hour of Halloween, full moon.
Yeah.
Like, dude, come on.
And I don't know should I mention that we were going to be shooting live Blitzkid, the Blitzkid reunion. We were going to be shooting that and making.
We were going to be doing that, yeah. At the Trioxin thing. We were going to shoot that show live. We were going to shoot the premiere live, which we will, whenever it comes time to do it again. Yeah. We had so much planned, man. So many cool things, dude.
Yeah.
We also have another project that we're working on, that we can't really talk about right now, but it's Adam and I are working on a story, and it's going to come down into some serialization, into some films and short stories, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Or you can if you have something else you want to throw out regarding it.
I think to elaborate on it, it'll just be a fun series of horror shorts that we'll be working on that'll kind of, intertwine within a world. And I'll leave it at that for now. But you might see some familiar characters in it.
We're basically taking stories and then we're just kind of weaving them into other worlds.
Right. And then kind of putting them into this I don't even want to give much away. Let's leave it at that. Let's leave
short serialization.
We're working on stories that will be filmed.
We're working on stories and ideas of familiar topics that also that intercede with other familiar topics in a serialized form.
Yeah. Owlie Eye Productions, that's Joe Olivas. He's the one that helped us with The Uninvited. He was the
shit. Joe, what's up, dude?
He will. Don't worry, Joe.
Yeah.
Talk to him about it.
Yeah, dude. I can't wait, man. It's going to be fun.
It'll be awesome. So there was a couple questions I noticed up here I kind of want to answer. Someone asked what camera we shot in votive light on. It was a Sony FS7 with just a Rokinon kit lenses. And then we also shot Babadook on that, with that. And then the camera that we used to shoot The Uninvited was a Red Weapon with vintage glass, so there's a story behind the lenses that we used. So the movie industry is basically set up on rental houses, right? Like you get all of your equipment from local rental houses. And so Joe came to me and he's like, I have a set of vintage Zeiss super speeds and let's shoot The Uninvited on that. I'm like, fuck yeah. Well, the history behind that lens is that's Stanley Kubrick's lenses of choice. Those are, he designed those. And I wouldn't say that we can trace that back to a Stanley Kubrick shoot, But the fact that, you know, rental houses buy and sell gear all the time, it's constantly being traded, you know, it's a possibility.
Absolutely.
That was the lens set that he used to shoot The Shining and basically most of the films in his later career. So that was really cool.
I remember you telling me about that. I was just like, I like it.
Yeah. And yeah, that combination of like vintage glass, which if you have ever held a Cine lens, they're huge, they're massive, they're heavy. There's so much optic science that goes into it. It's incredible. And to put that in front of, like, you know, the camera with arguably one of the best sensors on the market right now, which is that red weapon, it just looks incredible.
It was like butter. Just watching all the, you know, all the at the end of the sets or the shoots, just looking back at all the footage that we had. I was like, this is beautiful, man. Just being on, you know, no alterations, just strictly right off the shoot. You know, no post pro, nothing like that.
Yeah, before any, you know, any post production work on it, it looked great.
Yeah. And those super moons helped us out so much, man, on those videos. Like, again, that was so unplanned, but it just heightened. Like, the very end of In Votive of Light, when Keisha and Tasha are standing there looking down into the grave, and you can see the moon back there. A lot of people are like, oh, that's really cool, man. Like, how you guys, we did very little to that. That was the sky that night. It was insane.
Yeah. So that was the super moon light carrying through the clouds. And so, you know, it's that shot where you're kind of looking up and you see the sky behind them and then the clouds just illuminating. That was 100% moonlight.
Beautiful.
Incredible. And then we have A.G. Lopez saying nothing can be better than Veronica.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I could. Yeah, that shit did suck.
Oh, dude. Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah. Oh, man. That's what happens when you give Danzig free license to go ahead and direct a fucking movie.
Like, no disrespect, man. You know, like, I get it. And I know, you know, but it's like, man, it's okay to get outside opinions on something before you put it out. Like,
yeah.
I love, you know, constructive criticism. I don't seek approval, but like, I seek opinions from people that I care about. Like, you know, there's a lot of good musicians out there, man, that I'm fortunate to be friends with, and I'll be like, hey, man, how's this sound?
Yeah.
And so people will be like, that sounds like a song that you already did. And I'll be like, yeah, you're right. And then I'll change it. And I'm like, it's so much better now. You know what I mean? Like,
the same goes for, you know, filmmaking. Like, you have your group of trusted people, and by trusted I mean, like, if I show someone something that's shit, they're gonna tell me it's shit, and I appreciate that. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's how
I love those people.
Yeah, it's
Love
important.
them. Those are your friends.
Yeah, listen to them because they're not.
That's why I like working with you, man. Is I could be like, you know, you could be like, that's not going to work, and I'll go, okay. Or I could be like, I don't know about that. You, all right.
Yeah,
You know
I mean, you know, we kind of work on the.
Not that it ever happens with us, really. But
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's a collaboration from start to finish. You know what I mean? Like, the second that we start talking on the phone about a new project to the day that we're out there shooting, you know, we're coming up with new ideas and,
I agree.
you know, ways to execute it in the best way to go about it. And
Well, that's what is fun for me. You know, as like I was telling earlier, people like, oh, you know, whenever I get a song idea, I would just call Tracy, TV, or vice versa, and then we would just talk. And, you know, like, that's part of that creative process. Like, we have that, you know what I mean, when it comes to music videos and art and bringing that to a screen, you know what I mean? Like, we're both like, oh, what about this? And you'll be like, yeah, and what about this? It's like writing a song. It really is, man.
Yeah. And,
Hey, real quick, we'll come back. I know it's getting late, and I know we're probably going to wrap up here in a second, but I know we have a couple more questions, but Instagram's going to cut me off, so let's wrap this up, and we'll do about another 5 more minutes, if that's cool.
yeah, we'll just answer some questions. And
Okay.
all right, man. See you in a bit.
All right, see you in a second.